Hello and welcome to the Sharp Edge podcast, where we provide valuable insight and advice on the marketing and other business type questions that painting contractors encounter as they work towards achieving their goals. Now here's our hosts, Martin Morgan and Becca Hackley. So we talk a lot about something called the local pack, just in general on podcasts and everything that we write in blogs. As a listener, have you ever heard of this before?
Chances are good that you've probably seen a local pack. You probably just didn't know what the title was. Becca and I are going to walk you through an overview of the local pack and then why, as a business owner who provides services for the most part locally, why the local pack is so important to you.
I was actually one of those people who I knew what it was, but I didn't even know it was called the local pack for the longest time. But where can you find this?
So the local pack, it occurs when you conduct a search on Google, and most often it's related to services and especially local services. So where you've probably seen this before is searching for something like a restaurant or maybe an auto repair shop, or especially those things where you're looking for something that's most likely closer to where you are, and where it shows up is you think of a search engine results page. So that's the page that shows up on Google after you hit search, hit that search button. And if you're looking for services like that, you're going to see at the top some ads, usually about 3 ads or so. And then you see a map. And below that, you see a listing. Typically, it's 3 to 4 companies or service providers, restaurants, if it's that. Most often, the top one is going to be an ad. And then you see the 3 below that. That section there where it's got those 4 businesses listed, most often right underneath the map, that is the local pack.
It's pretty much front and center of just the search results page. And obviously it's important because it is so close up to the top for people to click on. But how often are people actually clicking on businesses that are listed directly in that local pack area?
And that's a key question right there, Becca. So I am glad you asked, because when we're talking about local services, and again, those are things like even beyond restaurants, but look, let's talk about plumbers or electricians. As people search for those types of services, or we could even say like painting contractors, because obviously that's why we're here, right? 33% of the clicks that occur on that search engine results page go to the local pack. So those are people who are looking for the local service. They've searched for the local service. They get that search engine results page and they click on one of the businesses that are included right there in that local pack.
Essentially, it makes it pretty easy for people to actually click on it. If it's right in the front, 33% of clicks, that's where they're going, and they're going to provide you all the options near you. So like you said, if you're talking about a plumber, a painting contractor, literally any business, a pizza restaurant, for example, whatever populates there is going to be probably mostly nearest you. But how is Google choosing which businesses are actually showing up in the search?
Well, and we should say too, despite the thoughts you may have about Google and what their ultimate goal is.
Yeah, who knows, right?
Right. Well, we could all be pretty cynical and not believe a lot of the stuff they say. And it's especially easy to do that when you're on the marketing side and you see some of the things they do. But regardless, their stated intention for search is to serve the user as well as possible. So if you're somebody searching for a painting contractor, for instance, Google is going to return the results that they believe best answer your question as quickly as possible. So for most businesses, when we look at how Google determines who to show in the local pack, most of the searchers want to find a business that is relatively close to them, which is why Google will often show in the number 1 slot whichever one of those business is closest to where the user is who is searching, or what we would call proximity to searcher as the number 1 factor. The difference here for painting contractors, and it's a significant one, is that in most cases, most painting contractors are considered service area businesses, which is where you get to choose the area that you cover. So it's not the proximity to searcher feature or that factor is not as relevant as it is for something like a repair shop, which stays in one place. So when it comes to painting contractors, the role that other factors play, things like the information you have in your Google My Business profile, things especially like reviews, those pieces play a much bigger role in determining where Google shows businesses in the local pack.
We'll definitely have to swing back around to your GMB profile and reviews, because that's something that can't go unsaid. But quick question. It's true for painting contractors, if they don't have an office, like you said, the proximity to searcher is more difficult because they're mobile. But what about a painter who is brick and mortar? Like,
in those cases, Becca, it is still a factor. So proximity to searcher can definitely play a role for those painting contractors who do have, I don't know if you call it office space necessarily, but they have
a building of some sort.
Yes,
Yeah,
they've got some sort of, and having been to some painting contractor locations like that, oftentimes it's a combination. It's flex space. It's kind of an office, kind of like an area to meet with tables and or desks, but then also a lot of times it's like a work area or a testing area as they're considering employees where they might test them. So, but for those who do have brick and mortar, if you do have an office location, we'll just say, to use the loosest of terms, then proximity to searcher will play a role in where you show up in the local pack.
So that's important to just know the difference between the two.
Absolutely.
And then going back to just your GMB profile and reviews that you talked about, like for a mobile painter who isn't necessarily stagnant in one position, just shows how important it is to have as much information and things relevant for Google to pull when a searcher is looking for them. Like, we've expressed this so many times to fill out your profiles as best as you can, but Martin, why is it specifically in relation to the local pack so important to do this?
In part, Becca, you explained a decent amount of it there. It's so important because Google takes the information that they show or they use. Let's say Google uses the Google My Business profiles directly to determine where they're going to show a business in a local pack. That is why it is so important to complete those Google My Business profiles. And we've got to say, we see a lot of painting contractor GMB profiles that are just not filled out. And it's not even, that you would say, oh, they're not a 10 out of 10 for information. It's like they're not even a 3. And so that is knowing that that's how Google determines where you show up in the local pack, and that so many people are using the local pack to make their decisions for who they are going to call for an opportunity, for a job that they have, for a painting job. That's really what makes the Google My Business profile so important.
And one to take away from this after hearing that would be to go find your Google My Business profile and make sure that all the information is actually updated too, with your phone number, anything, contact information, because one wrong thing, I mean, you're missing out on so many potential customers who could be able to contact you. So that's something to keep in mind as you listen to this.
Definitely. That is definitely important. Filling out, and that's the base, right? As you mentioned it, Becca, that's like the foundation of information you've got to get right. That contact information for sure.
That's what people need.
That phone. Yes, because it's so easy to just click the call, right? They're on a mobile, they're looking for something, that the number's there, click the call. Super easy.
And now let's say a painter isn't super thrilled about where they're searching in relation to the local pack. What are going to be some ways that they can improve the performance of that search?
The things that they want to make sure that they do is absolutely make sure that they've got the correct category. And a question could come next. Well, what should that be? And I'd like to give you the exact answer. The challenge is that Google changes categories almost on a daily basis. It probably is not that often. Most often what we see as the best applicable category is painters when it comes to painting contractors, because you've got to think too, like your potential customer. What are they thinking? They may not be thinking as much of you as a painting contractor as they are thinking, we need some house painters and we need some painters to paint our interior. We're doing a reno type of a thing. But category is important. Description is your opportunity to talk about your business and the type of business that you want. So make sure you've got that description completed as well, because Google can pull keywords from your description to help determine what they show in the local pack. There's also a section for services, and this is another area where Google changes this up. But add any additional services that you offer. And even if you've got the category of painters, let's say, they're a painter, in your services, you could also put like interior house painter or, exterior house painter.
So more specifics.
Right. So you could be more specific. Google reviews are, of course, important. And then be sure that you've got a link to your website. So we've said, if you've been listening to our podcast, this is one of those, if you had a quarter for or type of a thing, where we said your website and your Google My Business profile are like your 1-2 punch for your online presence. They're the two most important things. And that is true here as well, because your website will feed in to where Google decides to place your profile, your GMB, or place your business in the local pack, because Google will take factors, it'll take indicators from your website, because it's looking for multiple sources to prove that something is true. Again, Google wants to serve the user as best as possible. And if they're showing, let's say, painting contractors in there who are out of business, who don't do a good job, any of those things, that's going to make Google look bad. That's going to lead to unhappy searchers, unhappy users. So they're looking to try to find the most information to say, this is the best choice for this user. And if they can just crawl on over to your website, and your website is showing that you've got a bunch of content related to house painting, then when somebody searches for house painters, Google's going to really like that, and they're going to show your GMB higher even in the local pack. So make sure that website link is there.
Yeah, or they're going to go to Yahoo. Forget Google. I'm just
Yeah, maybe DuckDuckGo or Bing, perhaps. I don't know. Or what is it? Something like that.
So in relation to just a painting contractor's GMB profile, you mentioned Google reviews and just the importance of them. And you said, how many times are we going to beat this dead horse? But like, as we know, like even as consumers, like people read reviews, and for the most part, you normally trust what they say, or you at least get a vibe of like, that painting contractor might be not so great to trust. Of course, like your business needs to check out the Google reviews that you have attached to your GMB, and you want to be responding to them and making sure that you are representing yourself as best you possibly can, just to help your chance in the local pack, getting people to recognize you, to see you, to call you, to be your next customer.
Absolutely. And reviews, we can't emphasize enough how important reviews are. And we'll tell you as much as we can to encourage your happy customers to give you reviews. And part of that is, so, a survey came out toward the end of last year from Bright Local, where it said 93% of consumers use the internet to find a local business in the last year, with 34% searching every day. So that just shows you how many people are using the internet to find businesses. But then 87% of consumers read online reviews for local businesses in 2020. So you think about that's almost 9 out of every 10 people looking at reviews and how important that is. So you want to make sure that you have those reviews. You want to ask happy customers for reviews. You want to ask them to put as much detail as possible in those reviews. And you need to know that when it comes to the local pack, your reviews can impact where you show up. So you want good reviews, obviously high star reviews, the average star review, you want it to be as high as possible. But also you want a good number. So what happens, and again, as I mentioned, Google is trying to provide the best results to the searcher. And they know reviews are important. They want you to consider reviews are important because that brings more people to Google so they can sell more ads. And so in order to do that, they are likely to place a painting contractor who has either more reviews or better reviews or both higher than a painting contractor who has fewer reviews or less quality reviews. So this is another area where building up your reviews, both the number and the positive nature, obviously you want those in combination. It doesn't help you if you're building up a bunch of reviews if they're all 1 stars. So you want good ones. I mean, that's obvious, but should be said. Just the number itself isn't going to be enough, but you want them to be good. But those are 2 factors that do go into where your business will show up in the local pack.
I like to think of Google reviews as just like the modern day of word of mouth. I mean, really, that's what they are to me.
Yes. Oh, and totally. That's exactly what it is. That's why, and we'll talk to painting contractors who say they get almost all of their business from word of mouth, and that's great. And they mean like, true word of mouth, people talking to each other.
Yeah.
And that's great, but what are you doing to get business in the modern day word of mouth? Because if you haven't prepared yourself to do well in that situation, then all of a sudden the other is going to fall off and you've got nothing to sustain yourself going forward.
So taking the Google reviews and then filling out the category, description, services, and linking this all to your website, these are going to be the steps that are going to help your painting business just rank better in the local pack altogether so Google can pull all that information. So the big thing here is take small steps to improving your overall online presence because it's going to create like big jumps for your business. I understand that us telling you here are 7 things you need to do to show up in the local pack, that is maybe overwhelming or intimidating, but Martin, right? Start small. Start by filling out your GMB.
Exactly right. That is exactly right. Like don't look at the totality of everything and say, oh, that's just too much for us to do, so we're not going to do anything. Just start, like Becca said, start small. Make a small little list. Improve on whatever time you have. Spend, even if it's just 15 minutes a week, and you say, okay, I'm going to do this week, and you spend the 15 minutes and do it. Awesome. And then the next week you knock something else out, and then next week it's something else out, and then before you know it, within 4 to 6 weeks, all of a sudden your profile is much better than it may have been before. So just start working on it little by little if you don't have the time to work on it the whole thing at one time.
And if you aren't 100% sure on where to start, we have free resources on propainterwebsites.com. If you go to our website, on the top, there's a resource center tab. If you click on that, you can find blogs, webinars, infographics, and even these podcasts right there. You will be able to search for whatever type of topic you want to look for, and we will have something in there just to help you if you need that next step or that next push to figure out what to do.
Yes, definitely check out the Resource Center. And also, I've got to say it, please subscribe to the podcast. We appreciate you greatly listening to the podcast. We hope that you found value from here. We continue to do podcasts in part based on what we hear from painting contractors what we hear from the market or what the topics of interest are. So please subscribe. You can do that on whatever podcast platform you use, Apple, Spotify, etc. There's several of them out there. And give us feedback. Let us know if you have questions or other things you'd maybe like to see us talk about or cover. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks again for listening, and again, please subscribe.
Thank you for listening to the Sharp Edge podcast. If you want more information about this, please visit propainterwebsites.com and head to our resource center. We plan on hosting a podcast each month, so subscribe. You won't want to miss out. Also, we just have one last favor to ask of you. It would mean a lot to us if you would share this with your friends or other painting contractors. Our goal is to help you succeed, so you can help us achieve this goal by telling someone else about the show. Thanks again and have a great day.